Hello, everybody. Welcome to Adobe Live. And hello to you, Dale Bigeni. How are you, my friend?
Oh man, I'm good. I was a bit mesmerized by that little intro thing.
It's cool, huh?
Yeah, really good. It's very peaceful for this time of the morning.
I know it's a nice way to kind of start up. That was made by the amazing people at Oddfellows. Hey, everybody in chat. Hey, Festus, good to see you there. Thank you, Johanna, for jumping in this morning. Good to see you too. Hey, Sam, that was an amazing stream before with Kathleen, wasn't it? And Merck FX, good to see you. So thanks for jumping in. We are Adobe Live. As you can tell from our accents, perhaps we are in Australia. So wherever we are in the world, thanks for joining us. I know it's the afternoon and the evening, early morning for some of you around the world. For us, it is 8:30 a.m. So we're coffees and waters and just waking up for the day. Um, and yeah, so I thought I'd quickly just jump into our schedule for this week. So this is what we're up to this week on Adobe Live. Yesterday we had Ben Marriott on doing some animation for the Honor Heroes campaign. Today we have Dale Bigeni. We're going to be doing some vector art illustration. So awesome. Tomorrow we have Demis Rusley coming in for some creative photography editing. And on Friday we got Jeremy Lord coming back, and he's going to be tackling that Honor Heroes illustration brief. But Dale, so good to have you here. I think the last time, I'm trying to remember the last time we hung out was probably IRL in the studio, probably doing an Adobe Live at some point, which must have
Um,
meant it was
I
last
think it
year.
was. I think it was last year, yeah, and it has. It's actually it hasn't felt like it's been that long between drinks, to
Yeah.
be honest. But
Yeah.
yeah, different circumstances this time. I thought it would be less nerve-wracking. It's not. It's totally exactly the same.
Yeah, nice.
Like
You're in your house. You're all comfortable in your house. It should be fine, right?
yeah, no, it's just it's a crazy time, and I honestly thought, no cameras in my face, it should be sweet, but maybe it's the thought of just looking at my face. Maybe I'll just cover it.
Just cover it up with one of those vanity
Yeah.
camera things. Yeah, we'll let the work speak for itself anyway. So it's all good. This is a very friendly
Thank you.
place over here on Behance. Hey, Richard and Gideon. Um, 5:30 p.m., 11:30 in Nigeria. Great to have you in the chat from
Oh,
Nigeria.
wow.
That's fantastic. Yeah, cool. So I thought what we might do is, for those that might not be familiar with your work, is we might have a look at some of your work, your portfolio, and you can kind of give us a bit of an idea of the sort of thing that you do. So I'm
Yeah,
jumping over
cool.
your desktop now.
Yeah, sweet. So I basically I specialize in digital art. Not always Illustrator, not always Photoshop, but I like to mix between the two. You can go to my website, which is here. It's just dalebigeni.com. You can have a quick overview of some recent and some older stuff also, which is kind of cool because you can see an evolution of style as well, which is kind of cool. But I have worked with big companies, small companies, but for most of what I do, there's a lot of skull work, which is that's my forte, I guess. That's where it all started. So I kind of I hold on to it quite passionately. I'll just flick through some projects that you might like to say. Oh well, here's a newer piece that I did for the current state of the world. It's all about safety, staying home, and vampire coughs. I'm calling it. I think everyone should just practice the vampire cough into their elbows, or
Nice.
just stay home, whatever you need to do.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so I do like that. I try to steer away from doing too much that's I guess either pop culture related or it's kind of just my own style. I love tattoos. I love motorbikes. So I've got a lot of what I do kind of always strays down that path. But
Mm.
the you can go on my Instagram. There's a whole heap of there's a bit more variety in here, and you can see kind of again the style evolving over time, and different clients and different styles of art that I get requested to do. Sometimes painting, sometimes I do murals. Comes up quite small, but yeah, it's a very big wall, and it almost killed me. Um, but yeah, I guess what I am is just a an artist with many styles, and it's kind of I never wanted to be that guy that just stuck to one particular style. I wanted to be able to explore and further my process and my style over time, and slowly, you know, if you have been a follower, you know that it was always black and white for years. It was just only black and white, and that's kind of where it all started. But as you kind of come into 2020, a lot more color pieces start showing up, and a lot, by a lot I mean like there's five or six. you know, I'm slowly kind of just spreading my wings and stuff. But yeah, just a whole bunch of I like to work on anything. There's nothing I won't say no to, and
Mm,
it's not a money thing or a status thing. It's just I enjoy helping, and if it's art that I can do to help someone, then so be it. That's my way of giving back, I guess, and doing things like this and showing you guys that you can do it, and there's no right or wrong way. It's just developing like your own style and yeah, coming into your own, I guess.
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great overview. Um, so yeah, so I thought I might just quickly kind of explain. We're here for almost 2 hours today, and absolutely encourage you to ask questions at any point. We got Johanna, our chat mod, in there to help answer questions. We can answer the easy things like what brush is that, or some of those things relating to the work as we're going through, and then we can answer some of those like meaning of life questions. We're going to take a break at about halfway through. So if we don't answer your question straight away, we'll endeavor to get it in the middle. But yeah, what is your weapon of choice today? Illustrator? Is that what we're up to?
It is Illustrator, yes.
Nice.
Let me just, I'm going to close my.
Cool. Let's jump over. So I'll jump back over to your screen now.
All right. All right. So today I decided I was just going to work on kind of, this is the tail end of the brief, I guess
Mm,
we can call it. So usually I would do all my sketching either on paper and or digital on in Photoshop. So I've already got something drawn up that I'm going to be working on, but this is basically just the vector component of, creating final art, and just some little things that I do to prepare my file and to also like have a clean workflow and some tricks and tips basically.
cool.
So I might just jump into it. So like I said, I've already got my artwork drawn, so I'm just going to bring it in, and the way I bring it in is I will place my artwork in. I'll bring it in from my very well structured folder here. And there's my drawing. Oh, sorry, scrap that. I did it wrong. Place it, and I want to put it in as a template.
Okay.
So I want to place it in. So basically, what that does, like if you've got it to scale, and that's this is an A3 document, but obviously I drew it a little bit smaller.
Mm,
If you bring it in as a template, it'll bring it into size, and then it'll create, if you can see down in the layers panel, it'll create it as a template layer, and it'll lock it straight away for you, and then it'll put your working file above it.
cool.
So it's just good. It's just a good habit to have, I guess, to make sure you're drawing straight onto it, and not moving it around, and just that safety net. But
Mm.
obviously I did it a bit small, so you can unlock it. I'm just gonna scale it up a bit. Oops.
So where have you done this sketch? Is this like what is this
This
that we're bringing in?
this is just a Photoshop sketch.
Yep.
So basically, it's a sketch for, well, this is basically just been drawn for today, but it's just like a 50% opacity drawing, and it's like no special brushes, nothing. It's just all Photoshop, but yeah, just coming straight out of Photoshop at, well, it was 300 DPI, but I'd usually draw a little bit higher res and do like a 600 or a 400.
Hmm. Why is
So
that?
once Just for, I guess, w- sometimes when I'm drawing in Photoshop, I'll digital ink in Photoshop. So I'll
Mm.
do all my black work in Photoshop. And if it's at a higher res and I bring it over into Illustrator and want to either live trace it or I want to trace over it, it's a much cleaner, crisper line. Maybe this one will do it because it's a bit smaller, but it's pretty good. But if I get too close, it starts blowing out, and it's
Mm.
just like, you just want to make it as easy as you can for yourself, I guess. Like, you want to make sure that everything's set up in a way that, oh, if I want to, yeah, bring something in and have that vectorized up quick, I can live trace a part and drop it in or something like that. But at a higher DPI, it's always going to help better.
Mm.
Um, of course, in Illustrator, it doesn't really matter as long as you expand those lines at the end. This artwork can be as small as or as big as it wants. It's going to retain most of its detail.
Nice.
All right, so I've got my template in, and I'm ready to start inking. And I guess what what I'd like to do is I go into view, I make sure my smart guides and snap to point are on. Just makes life a lot easier if you're using, especially like certain shapes or the pen tool and stuff.
Mm.
It's gonna almost treat it like a magnet for snap to point, and you're not gonna have any like mismatch lines or things like that. And I do warn you, there will be mismatch lines today because I'm gonna feel like there's a lot of pressure here to not only do a good job, but I need to make it look like I know what I'm doing.
There's no
But
pressure. We're all friends here. It's all good. We're with you.
we're friends
What's
now,
everyone's?
Flynn.
Yeah, right. What's everyone saying? We're in this together.
Oh, we're definitely in this together. So you guys are gonna just have to bear with me.
Mm.
So I've got they're little things I like to kind of just make sure like are set from the start. So I've got my template layer in. I've got my guides set up. Oh, sorry, the smart guides and snap to point. And then I was just going to talk about basically every artist has their own method to doing this, and there's no right or wrong. I know you'll hear it a million times, and it's so true because the desired, I guess, outcome of your artwork is entirely up to you. And if you want it
Mm.
to look, you want those really hard, clean lines, then use the pen tool. If you want to keep everything like really like you want to go technical and you want to use brushes and different, uniformity of the strokes and things like that, you can. But this is going to be the Art by Dale unorthodox approach. It's worked for me, and it's kind of I stick to what I know because obviously I'm good at what that one method, but I want to show you
Mm.
some other methods that might help in case that's a route you want to take. So I'll jump straight into it.
Cool. That's the disclaimer I get from just about everybody at every single stage of their career is, okay, I know there's probably another way to do this, but this is just the way that I've learned. Everybody says the same thing to
It's
me at
and
some
you know
point.
what it's funny because you think I would be moving with the times, and I just don't have time to stop what I'm doing to learn new tricks. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of the old dog here, and I'm just going to keep my old tricks. So I'll just I'll talk about different ways I can do this. I would approach this artwork. So back in the day, I used to just do basically I would open my rulers up. And this is going to be a history lesson of art by Dale. So I used to just go if this was the artwork that I was working on, I'd just get the pen tool. This was probably pre Wacom days. So I would just go around here. I'm going to do this really quick because this isn't going to be the way I want to work on this. But I'll go just click for click around this thing until I've got the whole design basically outlined.
Mm.
So I'm just going to, we got a little bit of time, so I'm going to try
Yeah,
my
we got
best to
time.
be,
Take your
just try to
time.
be a little bit neat. Oh, this is me taking my time, trust me. All right, so I'm just like working my way around, and I know this is it's it was always a little bit time consuming, but I always kind of thought, well, this is how the guys do it, right? Like I used to look up to artists and be like, well, I'm sure that's how he does it. Like what else could he be using? I've only got this mouse with me, so
Starting with
also
the mouse, I
disclaimer.
think we all started doing all the stuff with the mouse. It is pretty amazing, like getting a tablet or a stylus. It kind of
Well,
brings you up
yeah,
to the
I was
next
just
level,
gonna
right?
say, well, I'm currently working on a tablet, so I'm not actually using a mouse, but this is proof that it doesn't matter what tool you're using. There's a way to do it. So I guess, yeah, I would go around and I'd draw that whole outline around this guy. Maybe I'd put a color so I can see what I'm doing. And then so I've got that outline, and I used to just grab this artwork. For the longest time, I never even used to change the strokes. I used to have these crazy, like, if you can see down here, the lines, the strokes kind of like they square off at some point.
Oh yeah.
They taper off at another point. It's really mismatched. I just used to leave it because again I didn't know what was going on. But now I always switch it to round end, round corner, and that basically gives it more of a consistent kind of like feel throughout. So now you can see
Yeah.
they're all rounded off, and it kind of just looks better on the eye.
Mm.
And then I'll just grab this and I'll switch it to align stroke to outside, and that's just basically because then I can retain the shapes of those hairs. I guess it gets a bit more tapered. Where if I've got
Mm.
it aligned to center, it tapers off, and then it has like a ball on the end. Anyway, these are like really minute details, but later on I would have went and tapered these off. But for now, I'm just going to leave it.
Mm. We've got a
I just
question
copy
from
that
chat. We
guy.
might be jumping ahead, but I don't know if we're doing
Are you
texture
all right?
today. But what's your advice for learning how to add texture to vector illustrations?
I was going to talk about it kind of briefly. There's ways to do it where obviously you can pay for packs. They're available. Again, I just use Photoshop brushes most of the time. I do have some purchased ones also, but I just would use that live trace kind of feature using some brushes from Photoshop, bring them in.
Mm.
I might go over it quickly, seeing
Cool.
as there's a question,
Yeah.
and we can
Cool.
definitely add it in.
Awesome.
Um, so I'm gonna copy, and then I just copy and paste this guy into place, and that's how I used to create my outlines. For the longest time, I'd just do like basically symmetrical tigers, skulls, everything. Like,
Mm.
and it was fine for the longest time, and I don't have any regrets. But then the wonderful world of the web, people used to call me out and tell me I was cheating. Like that's not how you draw, and that's you're drawing one half. Like anyone can do that. That's
Oh
fine.
wow.
That's great. Yeah. So honesty is. People are very honest online. So and that's great because that kind of feedback like told me that I needed to evolve my style and try to and make it look a little less symmetrical and things like that. So I won't bore you with the details, but you can see progressively I've gone from like pretty symmetrical artworks to like more of a composition where there's a lot of things happening
Mm.
and more consideration for change on each side. So, but for this one, this is old school Dale stuff. Like it's symmetrical, except I've like added some details to mix it up.
Mm.
So anyway, so that's one way. That's with the pen tool that you can click, click, click all the way around, and it's fine. It's great. It works. I know guys that are super successful that still only use a mouse, which is it blows me away. But I ended up deciding that I was going to go and get a tablet and try my hand at I had the old, I can't even remember what it was called, a graphite or something, and it was the tablet on the table, and I was looking up at the screen, so I had to master that hand-eye coordination, which was really tricky. But once I mastered it, I thought, well, maybe there's a different way to do this line work. Maybe it doesn't have to be with the mouse. After some research, I obviously found out that there was many ways, so I'll just go through the other ways I learned. So that's let's call that layer pen tool. Oh, also, the layers are very important. I name everything because I'm pretty forgetful, and this just helps with memory loss and also just keeping the file in order. All right, so that's one. Let's get rid of that one. So there's also, can use the pencil tool. Let's go to brush tool first. So you can use the brush tool. I'll just open my brushes. You can see this is just standard Illustrator issue here. There's nothing special. And just quickly, you can see if I use the brush, it comes out really, really bold at the moment. It's quite big, but that shape is actually a stroke still. So you can still go in there and you can work on your line widths and things like that. But also what you can do, you can double click on any of these brushes up here, and basically, actually this is a tablet only thing. But if you change these to pressure on all of them, and you can just change this to whatever size that's called. It's already at 5. So just changing the size and the variation. Now what you'll see is, so before when I drew those lines, that was just me pressing. Now this is the line. If I press harder and softer, it's pressure sensitive now.
Yeah, cool.
Which is kind of cool. But it's still just a stroke, so I can still go in there and play around with that and make it. Oh, what's going on here? Yeah, there you go. So I can still go in and make it thicker or thinner, and that is kind of cool because you can just go around and it gives it a bit more of a natural feel, I guess, how it would if you were using an actual brush. So you can just work your way around. I would literally just go all the way. One bit. So you can already see that, like, this is kind of it's a bit of a quicker method already.
And you get that nice kind of slightly imperfect line stuff as well with this, rather than the super sharp kind of thing.
Yeah, the pen tool is very precise, I guess. Where this is, this is only because it's got that pressure sensitivity going. I can kind of, like, you can get some of those lines. Anyway, that's really rough, but you can see that's kind of a much quicker approach to it. And the beauty of it is that you can still go in and change the brush size and things like that. And then once you've got all your outline, I would just select it all. Hopefully they're all touching. I'd just expand it. Creates my solid kind of outline.
Right.
And then
so it's turned it from stroke to outline in here.
Yeah, correct. So expand just change. So that means, these are no longer able to change in width. I mean, you can, by adding, you could add a stroke onto that now and bump it up, but then you're going to have to expand it and then it starts getting messy. So it's kind of nicer. I guess it's harder for me to explain a process where you're not considering those things, because my job depends on me knowing what the outcome is. So I've always got a goal at the end of my project that it needs to have, like, thick outlines, thin inside. But to be considerate of your final product is always good.
Mm.
So that's the brush tool in a nutshell. So brush tool with those pressure settings will give you that. Without the pressure settings, it's just going to be basically one solid line. And unfortunately, if you're only using a mouse, that's all we're going to be able to do with that. But so you know, it's a great tool. I like it. I don't use it much. I definitely don't think that's my pick of the bunch. But again, each to their own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's let's call that. I might just go back and leave it as stroke. And that's called brush tool. So I just had like a second where the denim seam brush. I just always wonder if anyone ever like whacks out the old denim seam and just starts drawing a picture with it.
It's always, I've always found it interesting that it's always been there, hasn't it? It's just always been like hey, do you want this like interesting ornate border?
It's the standard in brushes apparently, denim seam.
Yeah, I wonder how many has like just accidentally made it into final work just because it was there.
I know I've sometimes gone to draw a line and it's come out a denim seam, and I was equally mad and impressed at the same time. All right, so that's the brush tool. That's the pen tool is here. You can see the difference just in that artwork. The pen tool is quite like rigid, and I think I liked it because it always reminded me of like a die cut sticker. It was always so perfect. Like it was just like really bold, really clean lines. So I stuck to that for the longest time. And to be honest, I tend to mix up the brushes and the technique a lot, because I find that if I keep it all in the brush, then it looks really rigid and it's very like structured, where I can get some of that like brush tool and get some of that natural feel, because of the time we live in and the designs people are chasing. A lot of the time people like that hand-drawn like natural feel. Maybe everyone thinks we've gone too far like in the digital world, but so I mix it up a little bit. So they're the first two. Then there's the pencil tool, which is, I think pencil tool is probably the quickest for me as in terms of stroke-based tools, I guess, because I can draw this quite quickly. I'm just going to draw it again. Sorry, I'm just doing the same outline over and over again, but it's good to show you how quick they differ. Also, I'm not sticking to the original drawing all the time. If I don't think it looks good, I'll change it as I go.
Yeah.
So the pencil tool, if you take if you stop drawing and move away, it's always gonna, if you start your next line at that point, oops, sorry, where am I going? It'll link the line.
There was a question in chat. Why do you use Illustrator over Photoshop for your designs? I'm pretty sure you probably use both. Do you? I remember.
Nowadays, it's a lot more 50-50.
Yeah.
The reason I started Illustrator was probably because I was inspired by so many artists that were Illustrator based. So I decided that that's where I would take it. Sorry. But I also think Illustrator is heaps more flexible, and back in the early days of, I guess, starting up, all I ever did was like shirt graphics and merch and things like that. So it was always guys asking for printable files, and for the longest time I was always like, man, color separations in Photoshop, like, I don't have time for that. Like, I'm not even going to learn it. I'm not even going to try to learn it. So I did some research, and I just realized that vector files were heaps more versatile for printers like up until who knows when. But now I get guys and they're like, oh no, my printer can use a PNG. I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah.
okay, but I still prefer, if I know what's going on a shirt, to be a Illustrator file, simply because I know that the client can change a color much easier. Like, you don't have to walk them through how to change a color in Photoshop or things like that. And I know it is easy, but to them it's, they're used to AI. But I just think that the cleanliness of Illustrator is kind of like, it's, I don't know, it's heaps more powerful in terms of how far a design can go. Because this design, I can draw it at A3, but I can blow this thing up onto a billboard and not spend any extra time on it. Where if you've got a Photoshop file and it's set in stone that you've made it this size, the only way it's going to get bigger is if you interpolate it and do some retouching and things like that. So, and unless client comes to you and tells you that they're going to put it on billboard, there's a chance you're going to do it at the wrong size, so it's going to be a lot more painful. But Illustrator just always seemed like it was the smarter option. But like I said, now it's 50-50, because there's some things I can do in Photoshop that I can't do in Illustrator, and I'm sure heaps of the guys that do these live streams will tell you that they have their perks for I guess, like doing the textures and stuff. Like, it's heaps easier to achieve it in Photoshop quick, unless you're purchasing in, a pack for Illustrator. It's a lot. There's a bit more work to getting it how you would your desired look, but there's not to say you can't. It's just I find Photoshop's got little pros and cons, and so does Illustrator. So I mix between the two.
Yeah, cool, nice.
Yeah,
it's good to be versatile like that, I think. Yeah,
yeah.
Anna's saying in chat, vectors rule. Yeah, can be really nice working in vectors, can't it? Just to, it's done, and you can apply it to so many different things. You can make a sticker out of it, or put it on a skateboard or a shirt, or
just. I think it's just super satisfying as well. Like, and I mean, Photoshop's great, but now I see like there's a lot of brushes on Photoshop now that have basically, they look like paint, like you're painting on canvas. And I always think, well, wouldn't you just rather paint on a canvas? Like, vector's the ultimate, I think, in digital. But so back to Illustrator, and what I've got here is some lines that are a bit not as accurate as I thought, but with the pencil tool. So if I draw over here, it's going to put a new line. If I just draw really close next to this and tidy up that line, it basically amends that line, so I can kind of touch up these parts that weren't actually following my sketch. But like I said, it's not a big deal.
Are you holding anything down to do that, or is it just the pen tools automatically?
No, the pen tool is basically like, so it's responsive to if I start this line here, I don't know how big that is on people's screen, but if I draw from here to here, it will disregard everything above it, because my new line has now, like, it takes charge kind of thing. So, but there's no hidden tricks or anything. This is just basically like Illustrator being as versatile as it is and as powerful as it is. I can just go in and amend these lines if I don't think that line's where it should be. Sorry, it's making a fool out of me.
Happens when we're live.
But yeah, I can.
Quick shout out to Bill Hope in the chat. Bill Hope,
Bill Hope.
Says hi to you, Dale.
Bill he's a champion. Everyone should definitely check out Bill's work if you can.
We just might have Bill on Adobe Live sometime soon, so watch this space.
Yeah. All right, so I can go in there and I can bring these lines into where I feel they should be, or I can leave it and get on with my life.
Leave it and get on with my life. How long will you spend on the line work? Like, can you get stuck in the weeds a bit and think, actually, wow, I've spent like too much time here, like trying to perfect it? Or do you know when you're done, you move on, and that it's like you've ticked that box and off you go?
I think I like to spend a lot of time on the line work, especially like the black components of it. So that includes like the shading parts and that, because to me, the color. I guess my theory was if you can make it work in black and white, then like you've mastered it. I think colors. I don't even want to say it because Jeremy Lord, who does a lot of these classes, is a big color guy, and you know, I
Yes.
always thought color was cheating because it was distracting you from how good the line work was.
Awesome. I'll tell
and
him that.
and
I'll tell him. I'm dobbing on
you
you.
know what? Yeah, actually don't, because I that's just my theory. I feel like I was always sold on the fact that if my line works strong enough, then I shouldn't have to add any color.
Right.
But says me in 2020, who's trying to add color to artworks to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I love you, Jeremy. Please don't hurt me.
don't don't at me. Nice.
All right, so yeah, I'd probably spend like, I reckon a good, like 3-4 hours, like making sure that like it could easily be a day's work in just doing the line work. I mean, you can see if I wasn't doing this for a stream, I'd be a bit more careful. And these lines, like I'd love them to stay exactly where my sketch is in Photoshop, just because of the person I am. I like it to be exact. I guess that goes back to my symmetrical thing. I always enjoyed it being perfect on both sides.
Mm.
So yeah, there's quite a bit of time actually in the line work. So that is the pencil tool in a nutshell, and that process will continue throughout. And then I'd just do the same thing and at the end my flat lines and stuff. But I'd always keep another master file where it's not outlined, if that makes sense. So an expanded file and one that's not. So if I need to go and make changes, I can make it to the strokes and stuff like that. But we won't worry about that part too much. Nice. So that's those three tools. And then I guess the only other tool that I would use, and I do use a lot, is the Blob Tool. The Blob Tool is found under the same window, I guess, as the paintbrush and pencil. It's Shift B for the Blob Tool. The Blob Tool is really cool because Blob Tool allows us to draw, obviously, tapered lines. So it's kind of like the brush tool in that regard. Mm. But okay, so there's the issue. It's not an issue. You can work around it. But so say I'm drawing this section here, and I've got full control over the pressure. So if I want to do these lines, I can go and blend them quite easily. And I think the fact that it's the Blob Tool, like, it sounds very like relaxing. It's just like, it's literally just blobbing out. So anyway, what I'm trying to get at here is, so when I draw with the other three tools, I'm getting a stroke effect where I can go in and change the stroke. I'm just going to turn off my template because it won't show us otherwise. So these lines with the Blob Tool, you can already see with my smart guides, it's created it as a shape.
Right.
So it's drawing it as a shape instead of a stroke. So it eliminates the need to go and expand the artwork later. It's as it draws. So if I'm using black and I draw black next to it, you can see it just fills it and continues that shape. So the blob is like it's blobbing into each other. So I could color all this and now it's becomes that shape and on the outside. So it's kind of cool. And this is where I go back to enjoying mixing it up, because I do find the Blob Tools, and I'm just going to change the settings. You can double click on the settings and just change this.
Nice. Just
the brush is a bit big. Just going to make it a bit smaller. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, cool. So what I would tend to do these days is all my line work and all the major components of the artwork will be done either with one of the pencil or the brush or the pen tool so that I can play around with, like, at the final stage, I might say, well, I really want a really big outline. I want it to be really thick so I can go in and change that easily.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of time saving, like, just having it as a stroke. But then I know in here, and this is again because I've done this so much and I know what my desired effects are, I know that I can just draw naturally with the blob tool and be confident because I've already done that in Photoshop in my sketch. I know where tapered lines are going, and I guess that's why taking my time at the Photoshop part helps this part. So equally as important as each other, but like I said, this is like part two of a, two-part process, well, what we want to call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, go.
I was just going to say, yeah, so it's like planning it out and understanding how the tools work, like, and using a combination is like really, really useful. And it's probably something that is, like, you've been doing this for a long time, something that you'll learn, like, that sort of the inside isn't going to change. You're not going to have to increase that stroke because that's, it's always going to stay the same way. But then anything that might change, you would use a different tool.
Exactly. And like you said, it's a lot of it, learning over time and developing a process that works, and not getting too attached to one process, like be a bit flexible and try out new things. Like I can't stress that enough because I stuck on my method for so long and just refused to let people tell me that there was another way,
right?
Until I started experimenting, and now I'm like, oh man, so many different things I can do. And like, truth be told, there's artworks I do. Sometimes I don't post them, but they're completely different to anything you've seen on my website because it obviously, the website and Instagram helps me get work, but there's a lot of like passion projects that I work on that, believe it or not, are not skulls. Let me just tell you that. I will do things that are not angry animals or skulls and stuff, but this is the stuff that I enjoy doing as well. It's just truth of the matter is you got to get paid.
Yeah, totally. There's a question from chat just before, probably a good time to ask. But Bill was asking, have you tried the vector brushes in Fresco? Any thoughts? He's trying them out for a job soon. Have you given that a go?
I have not used Fresco yet. Again, old dog over here, Bill. I'm just Illustrator and Photoshop. Like, I've thought about it, and I guess it's going to take me a couple of months or years before I get the courage up to try something new. Just like I was talking about with this stuff, I just get so stuck in my ways, and I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's hard for me to go, oh, let me try doing something in After Effects, or it's a lot for me to process. So I feel like I'm only just understanding the full power of Illustrator, and Fresco might just shake it up too much.
Cool. We might have Bill on to show you the ropes, because although the problem with watching Bill is that he makes it look very easy, but it is definitely not.
Let me tell you, I've seen Bill work, and he's quick, and he definitely makes it look easy. Maybe I just like talking too much. All right, so I'm gonna flip out of here because I've got a file that has a little bit more done.
And just to let you and chat know as well, we've got about 8.5 minutes until our Q&A kind of section. So it's a great time to ask questions in chat if you have questions for Dale. We don't have to be super strict on that, but just a bit of a guide for us. I've got some questions for you myself, so.
Cool. Yeah. All right, so here I have, like, I've just gone in a little bit earlier and just done a few more, or just a few additional lines. I just want to go through, I guess, like how I would kind of approach getting to that stage where I want to start adding shading and stuff like that. So this is actually done in the pencil tool. The template. So the template being brought in as a template, the scan, it doesn't go to wireframe when I do Command Y. So I can see the wireframe lines, but I can still see my scan. So I'll turn it off. So you can see that they're all strokes still. They're not been done with the blob tool yet. So I'm just going to keep it in this format for now. And I'm just going to add a few more little details. Feel free to ask questions. I'm just going to...
Cool. One of the questions was, if we have time for this, is to see some of these passion projects. What do you think? Is it too close to your chest, or?
Well, not really. It's just it's kind of on my other computer.
Oh, it's on your other
I'm
computer.
on a laptop.
All right. We'll do it next time.
I'm on a laptop. Yeah. But how about I just maybe I'll link some stuff into my Behance this afternoon, and if you feel like checking it out, you can give me some feedback on Behance.
Nice.
Or book me for a job. Drawing not skulls. All right, so I've got some... I kind of like to just fill in any lines that I know are going to be solid black eventually. Like the color, the shading areas. And I'll tell you why.
And this is pencil tool.
Sorry.
Yeah. Cool.
This is pencil, yeah. Sorry, I just was went a bit quiet there.
No, it's all good. You focus.
Yeah, so I might just leave out...
Yeah, I've noticed I know your work quite well. I've noticed there's like quite a like bike culture, not bikey culture or anything, but like motorcycle tattoo kind of culture. Where did that all come from?
Yeah. I guess I kind of just was... I always thought there was something missing. But I mean, there's always been bike culture and bike art and things like that. But I think the combination between things being composed as a tattooist would, because as you know, like tattooists are amazing at composition because they're creating these pieces for life. And I always just thought I wanted to retain some of what a tattooist does in a digital format. And I guess hand in hand, bike culture was always affiliated with tattoo culture. Sadly, not as like strict anymore, but like tattooing and the bikes always, like they play well together.
Right.
So and also I love bikes. I only just started riding, but I've always been a motor guy. I'm from Western Sydney, so all we had was, tattoos and bikes, really.
Like that.
So yeah, I'm just gonna put these little guys on. Just putting some things in that I know I can show you how I would approach. All right, I might just leave it as it is, and as you can see, it looks very like unfinished, which is great. That's it. Oops. I may as well do the last one. Jeez. All right. So I've got all these guys. I'm pretty happy with the outside stroke and things like that. So I'm just going to leave it as it is. And like I said, I won't save another file, but I would usually keep this guy just off to the side, and he'll stay in a stroke kind of format. Then I just grab all these. Let's remove this.
Is that so that you could, if you wanted to change something, you kind of have that backup? You could always go back and have that like in its
Yeah,
purest
and
form before you do anything to it.
yeah, so I would only have it would obviously be a lot more detailed than this. Like I'd have all those the line work in, so
Yeah.
the whiskers, the eyebrow, everything. I'd just have it as like a independent um outline only, no shading, nothing, and it's just so that because I know the shading isn't gonna like so when I say shading, I talk about like the black shading that would go here. So like under the helmet, under the eyes, things like that. They
Mm.
go in really quick in terms of how I process it and how I would do it. So I know that if I have to revert back to a outline to make some changes and then redo that, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Um, but when it comes to kind of like the smaller shading, once I'm in that kind of realm where it's like the line work and like the even the texture and stuff, I'd like to hope by that point that I'm not in need of this outline anymore. Like hopefully I'm not making changes anymore.
Mm.
But it's nice to have, yeah, as a little bit of a safety net. So okay, so what was that? I was gonna outline these. I was gonna expand them. So just expand. Oh sorry, let's see outline stroke. Now you can see they're all expanded and you can see that there's a lot of lines crossing over and things like
Mm.
that. Um, at this point, it's a little bit dangerous, so you got to make sure they're either grouped. Number one, so these are not grouped. So if I accidentally go to move up, these can move independently. I don't want that.
Right.
You can either group it and now it moves, or I would go in and I would use the pathfinder. Sorry, and then I would just merge it all together. So now it's basically like what the Blob Tool was doing. I've got all my lines have now joined and there's no turning back. Well, there is because we saved one without outlining it. So yeah, now I've got that guy. I've got it called outlines. Now I'll just create another layer and I'll work on it underneath and I'll call it shading. Alright. Now I'll just go through how I would do this. Now I think we covered the outline process pretty well. The methods and things. I guess shading can be treated in that same way. There's a couple of
Mm.
different ways that I would approach it. Sorry,
Yeah,
are we good for
we're
time?
just on Q&A.
All right. How about I'll wait for Q&A and then I'll go into this shading.
Cool. So, chat, feel free to dump your questions, ask your questions in chat, throw them in chat. Just letting you know if you're watching this anywhere else other than Behance, that's the chat that we're talking about. So you might be, if you're asking any questions on YouTube or Twitter or anything like that, then jump on over, jump into chat, say hello, ask us questions. So we'll just ask you a few. I actually wanted to talk. I'm going to kick us off because I wanted to talk about like curating your portfolio, like your online portfolio, because of something that you said before where you've got these kind of passion projects and you also have work projects that are not in your portfolio. So I kind of wanted to talk about the decision to not put those pieces online, and why.
Okay. I guess the short answer is I guess like the short answer is because it's about what sells, I guess,
Right.
in a way. So for me, I've built this brand on, as we discussed, a lot of like skateboarding influence, motorcycles, tattoo culture, and things like that. So it's a niche market. It's not a huge market.
Mm.
I mean, it's big relatively, but I think if I was to go and just start putting up these passion projects like that are more editorial stuff, yeah, it could open up a world of new opportunity for me. I understand that, but I also think that it can tarnish the brand a little bit because it looks like, and this is my opinion to myself, only myself.
Mm.
I just think if I start doing things that aren't a part of that alternative culture, then I start looking like I'm chasing dollars more than I am chasing work that I'm passionate about.
Right.
So I like to keep. I've developed a brand over the last 15 years. I've developed this brand of a lot of black, a lot of skating, a lot of tattoos, stuff like that. I think it's hard to just drop something. This is not the artwork, but something really colorful and something really friendly,
Mm.
something that will sell to mass markets, because that's not what I've been interested in, for one, for
Mm.
so long, and also it's hard for my following and supporters to take it in, because it's a bit of a shock to the system. They can
Right.
either hate it and then you lose a lot of respect, or they could love it and you could gain it. It's kind of
Mm.
it's one of those really, it's a bit scary actually, because you want to do right by I guess current climate, or what's going on in the world and things like that. But I'm just so passionate about
Mm.
like what I do, that I feel like the passion projects I'm working on are for me and my family, and or my home, because it fits the home decor or things like that. Where this stuff, I'm passionate about it because it helps build brands, and it gives brands like an identity, and I can be a part of it, and it's
Mm.
unmistakable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so it's a tricky one, because yeah, you should be able to show everything you do, but it would be the same as if another artist started, like, who was doing editorial work, started doing like only tattoo based art. You'd be like, oh, hang on, why? Who
Right.
said you could come in this room?
Yeah.
It's a bit, yeah. It's a hard one, because you do want to make, ultimately you want to pay bills and make money. But for me, I genuinely believe in creating art for like your own sake,
Mm.
for drawing things that you love drawing. And yeah, just displaying. It's hard because I'm a brand now. I'm something people will look for in on the internet, in Behance, Instagram. They'll be like, oh, we need someone that's perfect for this project. And if I change it up too much, it makes it hard for me to land those jobs. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Yeah, cool. I think that I think there's a lot of artists that have the same thing, and it is, social media plays such a big role in that, because obviously it will lead to work, whether that's with
Hmm.
brands, or just with individual people that reach out. Hey, I've been following you for a while, got this project, I really like your style, I think it might be right.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if you're not sort of, if you're, I think Jeremy Lord calls it a Swiss Army knife. Like, if you're doing everything, absolutely everything, you're kind of not a specialist in anything, and it's that balance between, are you the
Of
person they
course.
go to for that, or can you just say, hey, I can do anything, book me for everything? And it's
Yeah,
an
yeah,
interesting balance that I think it seems to be a lot of people go through it.
yeah. And it's hard because you do want to be versatile, but you don't want to. I guess versatility, and I guess being looking desperate,
Yeah.
like, especially in a time like right now. Sure, I can do medical posters and design work for a campaign. Like, I've worked in advertising and print houses for a few years, and but that's not what I want to do right now.
Mm.
I want to do more skulls. I want to do more, like, cats wearing helmets and riding bikes. Like,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. You can flex and meet the demand, or you can be true to kind of what your art is about. So
Mm.
yeah, the attitude needs to be reflected in your art, and I think that's what I do. I just do my own thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have another
Yeah.
question, which might be hard to answer because everyone is geographically in a different spot. But the question is, what school would you recommend to enhance your skills in Illustrator? And yeah, that's quite tricky. Depends on where you are. But maybe you could tell us what your education was and how you got where you are, and maybe what advice you would
Yeah,
give to
sure.
someone coming up.
Okay, well, mine was pretty standard, to be completely truthful. I went to did the 12 years, 13 years at school, whatever. Um, I knew where I was going. I had no intention of going to university or, a prestigious college of any sort. I just went to TAFE. I went to Nepean Arts and Design Centre out here in
Yeah.
Penrith.
Yeah.
And I went into the whole course thinking like it was just gonna my brother went there, I'm just gonna hang out with my brother, he's
Yeah.
cool, he's it was literally following in my brother's footsteps. And he was super creative, and I guess I learned everything on the job kind of thing. Like
Mm.
the education I was given was great. It gave me the starting point to learn these things. But I evolved as an artist via going to art shows, meeting people, and actually putting tools like to work with these guys, and like reaching out and asking them, hey man, like I really want to learn this, and if they were cool, they'd be an open book. I mean, I learned about the Blob Tool from another artist, and I was so surprised that he was willing to share that
Mm.
information that I had no idea about. And but in terms of schooling, I think schooling is only going to be good if you want to be there. Like I didn't want to be at school. I didn't want to be
Yeah.
at TAFE. I only wanted to be where my brother was, and it's crazy because I spent most of the time outside the classrooms, not even doing work. So
Yeah.
to think back to where I am now, I don't think schooling had the effect that it should have on
Mm.
me. But with that said, there are a lot of online courses now, so it doesn't matter where you are. There's so many like helpful tutorials, and I guess these programs are so intuitive that you don't need to have a full degree. Like you don't get a certificate to say I'm the master of Illustrator ever. I don't
Mm.
know that exists, but if it does, can I have at least a shot? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's yeah. I just think if you want to learn, you'll find a way. There's tons of ways. There's no right school to go to. If you pay, we were discussing this before, if you pay all that money for one of the prestigious colleges, doesn't mean you're going to get less or more than you would from a TAFE college. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the information's out there online. Like obviously, I mean, even here on Behance, there's just like you
absolutely.
almost can't get through all the content of some of the best artists and illustrators in the world. Literally just showing you, hey, this is how I do my work, and then of course,
Yeah,
practice. I think is the key as well.
is the key.
Um,
Yeah, definitely.
so Amanda was asking, would you recommend a tablet for beginners, or do you think it would be cheating to begin with? I don't know what you mean
No,
by cheating, Amanda. But
no there's no cheating. I think
mm,
my whole what is it? My ethos, is that what it's called? Well, just my whole thing is work smart, hustle hard. I
yeah,
I think you need to work smart. Working smart is basically using tools that can help you create in a quicker time frame, a more conventional work way, I guess. I save a ton of paper and like rubbish and things like that. I mean, I'm consuming heaps more power, but I absolutely think that working smart means if you think you'll do a better job on a tablet, then you should go straight to a tablet. I know they're expensive, but there's entry levels from Wacom that are amazing, and I wish they were around when I was starting.
mm,
There's definitely no part of that anyone could call you a cheater. That's working smart, and I think
yeah,
you really need to think of that continually. Like, how can I illustrate this tiger in the quickest way that it's one going to get done on time, two I'm going to get paid, and three it's going to be done correct. Like it's
mm,
yeah, whatever works. But a tablet is a great idea if you want to go straight into illustrating, because I just think with the mouse, if you're trying to emulate any of those movements that you do as an illustrator on paper, it's going to be almost impossible.
mm, yeah, absolutely. Um, Johanna was asking, maybe it's because you can see all your cool skateboards behind, but would you ever sell your home decor work online? You do sell quite a lot of stuff. You have a
Um,
merch store and everything.
well, I haven't sold for a while. I just put up a shirt. I did that COVID-19 shirt,
Mm,
and it's available for pre-order. But I haven't sold anything for a long time, and it's mostly because I haven't had the time
Mm.
mostly to work on personal stuff. And the stuff for my house I wouldn't sell because it's designed for my house. If
Right.
you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and that's in no way meant to be rude about it. But I definitely be open to, like, commissions that are, house specific or family specific.
Mm.
It would just be like creating a brand piece, but for yourself, for another family. Um, but yeah, it's I definitely got to get more merch up there. So good question.
Nice. Maybe one more question, maybe two if we get another one in. But
Yeah, yeah.
Stefano was asking back on the style thing. So, what if you have many different styles? How would you present your portfolio?
Oh, well, I would just present it as uh, um, uh, exactly what it is. I would put
Yeah.
all my different styles from the start. Like, don't let something tell you inside that you should only put black and white artwork on there. I think you should definitely consider being a versatile artist from the start. It's going to, one, make you, well, be able to take on more projects, and I think it makes you look more honest about the art you're producing, I guess, because to come from the start with such a broad range of art is great. And I guess the only problem with it is it's harder to recognize. Sorry, what was his name? Stefano? Is that what
Stefano, yeah.
Stefano. So you want people to go, oh, that's a Stefano artwork. Do you know
Right.
what I mean? It's harder if you've got heaps of styles. It's harder for people to attach your name to that piece,
Mm.
and I guess you almost start feeling like an agency or a design firm rather than an artist. So it's, I guess, great to put up everything you've got. Maybe you can segment it into editorial, logos, like, and just have it as,
Mm.
I guess, segmented pieces on your website. I'm not sure. Like I said, I stick to what I do because I know it's what truly sells my work.
Mm.
But don't be scared to be versatile and to present art that you're proud of, I guess.
Yeah. Good advice. I like it a lot. It's our last question before we'll jump back in. But for when we can visit them, I like this question, Joe, because it reminds me that we used to be able to go outside. Do you have any go-to gallery spaces to recommend? Do you get out and go to visit spaces in Sydney or in Western
It's
Sydney or?
It's definitely been a while. I haven't gone to a gallery space in forever, and from what I know, like back in the day, it was like there was only a handful, and it was really, there was Ambush. That was
Ambush
the
Gallery
biggest
in
and the
Sydney,
best.
yeah.
Yeah, it was the biggest and the best. It was like every party was there. Every big thing that was going on in the art world was at Ambush Gallery.
Mm.
Not too sure where they stand at the moment, or I think they may have gone back to their old location. But I I've started to do less and less of the exploring and visiting art shows, because one, because of workload, and two, I just think it's getting a little bit saturated. There's galleries popping up everywhere, and I just can't keep up with it. And
Mm.
yeah, off the top of my head, I know there's one out in Penrith. I can't remember. It's something Bones. I have to get back to you on that one. But
Yeah.
as far as art in my area, there's not a lot going on. It's all in the city, but yeah, unfortunately, at this point, I couldn't even tell you where would be a good spot, and if
Mm.
there will be good spots after all of this.
Yeah, that's right. I think we're
Yeah,
beginning to see like some galleries and things like trying to convert to online. So I think over the next little bit of time, we'll probably get more, but I'm sure it'll be like in an online, some sort of online
yeah,
experience where we can just kind of flick through a little bit. But I think
yeah,
that's all going to
definitely.
come. But yeah, it's all on the gram, isn't it?
It's
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 all there.
crazy. Yeah, that's the best gallery is Instagram at the moment.
Instagram.
Truly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Cool.
all
Thanks for
right.
your
So,
questions, everyone. So I just wanted to just kind
yeah,
of
thank you.
explain. We've got about 45 minutes left. I'll bring in a little timer to kind of indicate that as well. But yeah, take it away, Dale.
All right, cool. So we're gonna jump back into this, and I'm just gonna talk about how I go about adding in different levels of shading. So firstly, I've locked my outline layer. It can be turned on and off. And when we expanded the our line work, we now have the luxury of, if you want to, I can go in and unlock the outline layer, and I can select the insides of, well, where I want to be black. I can just grab those. I'll just grab this as well. So you can see that it's only grabbed the inside portion of the outline. I know it keeps flashing because of the smart guides, but so I've only selected this part here and this part here, and I can. Oh, sorry.
Is that your dog?
Yeah, that's my dog. He's not a fan of magpies, so when they come, he's got to attack him.
Good boy. Good boy.
Oh, he fully distracted me. Okay. So I'm just gonna copy these parts. So I've just pressed Command C. I'll lock that layer again on the outlines, and I'll just click on my shading layer, and I'll do Command F, and it pastes in place, and that will fill those parts quite quickly and quite easily. And it's a nice way to do it because I know that these lines are correct and they're flush with the outline. So I can do that. The only problem with that is if I'm working on the shading but for whatever reason I accidentally tap this off and I don't see that, to the very end, like it's quite frustrating. Like it can move, so it's only got that inside to play with in terms of black. There's no bleed or there's nothing else happening under it. So it's a good way to do big parts. I won't do it all the time, but that's kind of one way I would do it. And then I'm just gonna, while I'm here, I'm gonna add a stroke to this because I want it to have a bit of a white outline. So I just add a stroke, outline the stroke, and then I'll go expand, and I'll trim this. And I'll do the same thing. I'll copy, get rid of that, put it in. Now I've got like my little outlines happening in there. And then with my Blob Tool, I'll go in and I'll add some extra. Nice. I can go in there and add all that kind of stuff. And then as you can see, the Blob Tool was able to connect that black shape that I had with the Blob Tool, so it's still one piece. So that's kind of, and then I would just keep going with this. So for instance, I know, again, this is pre-planning. This is where pre-planning helps. So I know that I know they're not black, but I've done them in brown. So I know that this is going to be here, and this is going to be here. And ideally, so I should have mentioned, the Blob Tool isn't grabbing that black. So you can see that black's not attaching to the Blob Tool. So it's still two pieces. If I do this, oh, sorry, no, it won't do it because that black's on a separate layer. The Blob Tool will only join black if it's on the same layer or the same color lives on the same layer. So we'll just do that. And I can go and fill it in with the Blob Tool. It's that easy, but I just do this because it's quicker. So just go in, keep going with this. I think I like the Blob Tool because it's quite like carefree. You just like, you can kind of get lost in it a little bit. Just like draw all these lines. It can look like a mess. Like I can do all these. And then just at the end of it, I just can click in here, delete. So I could go through my whole artwork and just put all them lines in, or I could just fill it in with the Blob Tool. Like it doesn't matter. There's no right way to use this thing. I just like that it converts it to one color. So yeah, and then I can sort of like start getting a feel for what's going on here. So there's that. kind of thing happening.
Nice.
Obviously, it's a lot harder to squeeze a lot of info into a short time because, like we said, it's a pretty long process, and I just want to kind of give people an overview of things I might do throughout the process.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So, oh yeah. So now I've got like the blob tool and it's drawn in. I just select all, and you can see like the blob tool isn't. It's not amazing. It's not neat by any means. But I can go in with the eraser tool, and again, it's all set to pressure. I should. I'm sorry, I keep talking about the pen tool. So hopefully, it encourages you to consider a tablet for ease of working.
Mm.
So now I can cut back that with the eraser, and I'll just like tidy up lines. And I know you might say that wasn't very tidy, but I'll show you it as why. So I'm just like cutting back, trying to get some better angles and stuff.
Right.
So
kind of
now
cutting back
I've
in
got
the
that.
like negative space to make those
Correct.
lines. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but during that process, I'm gonna have parts where, yeah, like I might go a bit. I've hit it a bit hard here. Oh, hello, nose.
There was a technical question here. If you had more
Sure.
than one, if you have more than one layer and then change the color to combine them together, would it mess it up?
Change the color to mess them up. So, do you mean if I have multiple layers of black,
I
or
think so. And then you change the color. Like, would it mess it up, or do you need to
well,
keep the color consistent?
I guess it's easier to keep colors consistent anyway for ease of changing. But you can have multiple layers and still use the blob tool. But if I do black under black, it's going to always be under that layer.
Yeah.
If I use red on top of this, so if I, here we go, I'll just do a quick demo of changing color. So I've got red. And if I say I want a red eye here, oh wow, it's grey. Hang on, let's change that.
Mhm.
Grayscale. Try again. What's going on?
Is your whole document in grayscale?
No,
No. There we go. Cool.
no, it's weird. All right, so I've got red, and I can have like a red eye in there, and
Yeah.
so they still live on the same layer. The blob tool obviously won't interact with the black because it's completely different color. But if I want to change those colors, I can still just go and select all. I can go select same fill color and just change the black. It's only gonna change the black. So I mean, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I feel like if it's a multiple layer question and you've got different colors, then they should always be treated as separate colors.
Yeah. Cool. That's good.
All right. Okay, so I've got some sketchy lines here. I'll just go in and I'll get the pencil tool back out and I'll start rounding those off or finishing the line. So that one's missing a bit. I'll just go in there and finish it. This little under. So also, I just tried to round this part off here. Oh, sorry, tidy it up, and you can see it kind of is kicking up still. There's also where are you? So there's the smooth tool. I'm just going to drop it in here under the pencil. So the smooth tool is another handy little tool that can help. You just basically run the mouse over that, mouse pen over that, and it'll narrow down the amount of anchor points as well. So it'll smooth out the line, but it's also removing anchor points, which we all know means a quicker file for working with. So, and it just is really like, you can see this curve. It's just not doing what you want it to. So you just run this over it a couple of times or one time, and it straight away starts looking a million times better. So that's why I guess the process is so long, because there are all those little imperfections that I would go in and I'd have to handle one by one, like line by line. So there's no quick way to do what I do. This particular format takes time, but I mean, it's fun. It's if you've got time and people know that this is your process, then there should be no rush to hammer out the artwork. So I think it's important to take your time to zoom in, have a look at what's going on, and really assess the artwork as you go. Don't try to finish the whole thing and then go, all right, I'm going to go over it with a fine tooth comb, because that could take you equally like as long as it did to create the artwork in the first place. So yeah, I'd just be very cautious about that.
It's quite a good tip for people using like older machines or something as well, just to kind of clean it up as you're going, because it'll make everything run a little bit faster.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, and it's because it is important. Like the anchor point count is like it can really get crazy. Like I can't tell you how many would be in an artwork, but I know that some of my files lately have been almost pushing, 200 meg, like 200 meg for a vector files, and it's enormous, and that's because of the texture thing and things like that. So just be cautious of like what inclusions you're using, and you're being smart about it. Like, don't overcomplicate the file.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm just gonna add a few more little. So I'll go in and with the blob tool, it's still too big. Change it. So oops. So I'm just changing the size, double clicking on the blob tool, and then I might just want to add some of these in. Oops. Again, it's not super important to get this stuff like 100%, because you can go back in and, I mean, I don't think that guy belongs there, so I can get rid of him. So that's one way I can add those in. The problem is once they're there, the blob tool has locked them in there, so I can't just move one. It's a bit of a damaged goods now. I'm just gonna have to leave it. But for this, I'm gonna bring it back and show you another way you can do those lines. So I would just go draw this in. Oh, let's just use the pencil tool. Pencil tool, draw that kind of shape that I was chasing just then. Fill it with black. And again, I know that curve and that curve are different. It's not super important right now. I'll move this guy up here. And then I'll just go the blend tool, click the two middles of those two shapes, and then you can see that that's probably enough. There probably doesn't need to be any more of those, but there's a few settings for this tool that I think are important to show you. So if you go into Object, Blend options, you hit that, you can see it's set to smooth color. Not really sure what that is. I never use it. But I hit specified steps. So you can see it's saying there's 3, so it's putting 3 in between your original art. So you can go up or down. Oh, hang on, let's go preview. So you can go up and down and add or subtract as many as you want, as many as you feel suit the artwork. I think 4 is probably enough. So this orientation is basically the blend tool creates this path in the middle of it. So this is basically saying that it's going to align to page the shapes, so they're not going to kind of bend on the path. But then there's align to path, so you can hit align to path, hit OK. This part is a bit of mucking around, but you can add paths to that, and you'll see what happens when you bring this down. See how it's like it's going crazy?
Yeah.
we can get this. It's because it's going straight along that line, but you can see how it's trying to. It could be it's a smaller space as well.
Mm.
But say I want to. So I'm gonna put the path to follow this. Again, this is why everything takes so long when I do it.
Mm.
So if you go into blend options and you change that, now you can see the way it responds differently.
Yeah.
So that follows the path and this follows the page. So now, oops, sorry. I can go in there and add more. You can do something like that. Get that in. I mean, you can tweak this as much as you want. There's probably too much, but yeah, you can blend like that and get your line work
Mm.
happening like that. It's totally up to you. Otherwise, you can go in there and not use the blend tool. You could just go and get some strokes in there. Oops. I'm just gonna. This is just a pencil tool. And they don't look right, so you can just go in there and select those and change it to the tapered double N.
Right. So it's like a
And just
finer version, like a finer brush version.
yeah, and you can like obviously this is really quick and nasty, but you can see that they all do the same kind of effect.
Mm.
This you've got control of each individual, each stroke. The blend tool kind of attaches it to that path, so you can only amend. So I'll go back to that blend tool one. So this, if I move this one singular, so if I move this guy, it's always gonna like it's you don't have control of these except for the path and the count that you apply to it. So it's a little bit trickier, but if you can master it, I think it's pretty handy because you might zoom out and go, "Oh wow, there's too many lines, but I've attached them all, and now I can't do anything." The blend tool's really cool for that sort of side of it. You've got control of the count, but again, there's probably a better way. But for this, I'm just gonna try to get through a bit more. So I would just use the blob tool. Change it
We're
back.
chatting about like time, like how long it can take. Do you have any tips? There's a question from Johanna. Do you have any tips for managing client expectations of time and how long it might take to finish a project?
Yeah, I think I've learnt to just be upfront about how long my art takes.
Mm.
So, unless there's a hard deadline that they need you to meet, I think it's nice to not have to rush your art. So always be honest about how long it does take.
Yep.
And if they are willing to hire you or they are keen on working with you, then it shouldn't be a problem. You shouldn't have to manage any expectation. They should understand that art takes time. So, but yeah, just set yourself, I guess like a not a rate card, but you could always like write up yeah, like a rate card of sorts where it says your price either per hour or per piece, and also like how long it can take from starting date, and also put in there. I always make sure I say it's going to take this long. However, this depends on approval process because I know some people.
Yeah.
Obviously, they miss an email by a couple of days, and you don't hear back from them from a week. Then they can't expect you to regain that week and pump it out. So yeah, just be very upfront and honest about the process and what it takes.
Yeah. And that's something you would learn over time, right? Like you might not know
Yeah.
straight if you're new, you might not know exactly how long things are going to take. I suppose
Exactly.
the best thing to do would be to maybe give yourself some briefs or like, try to
Yeah.
time
Or
yourself and figure out actually how long does it take for you to would it take in
yeah.
like an ideal
I guess
circumstances, I
like
mean.
unless you're studying or anything, you kind of won't ever be thrown a brief, and people say, "Oh, I can't get any work and stuff." Maybe yeah, get like your loved ones or like a friend to say, "Hey, well, can you do this brief?" It doesn't have to be something you get paid for, but it'll be something that puts your workflow in perspective and makes you understand what you should charge, what you should
Mm,
allow yourself in time, and also no one gets hurt in the making of. So that you could do that, I guess.
yeah, yeah, cool.
So yeah, I'm just filling in this stuff. I'm just using the Blob Tool at the moment, just because I think this is going to be the quickest way to cut through some of this, so I can show something else.
Cool. So we got about 25 minutes. We can do some questions at the end as well. So if there's any more questions from the chat, we can jump them in, just to kind of give you a bit of a time idea of time.
I'm just trying to get to this one point so I can quickly just explain that texture thing I was talking about.
Cool.
It will be the at-home edition, real low key.
That's one of my questions for you as well. Is how are you going with the current isolation kind of climate at the moment with work and everything?
Yeah,
I guess everything,
oh,
and I mean work and life and everything that comes with that, because obviously everything is merged. Like the Blob Tool, everything is merged together.
that's exactly right. I definitely feel as confident as I always have. I have moments where I doubt what's going on and just where my headspace is at. But
Mm.
overall, I feel good. I haven't. Luckily for me, I guess the workload hasn't dried up, and maybe realistically, it's opened up a lot of doors for artists and new brands alike because people are at home. They got some of them don't have much to do except like do their work for that 8 hours or whatever it takes if they're working from home or whatever the case may be, and they're kind of thinking, well, kind of put off making that brand years ago because I had no time, but
Mm.
all of a sudden people have this time, and yeah, I've still got work coming in, and I'm grateful for every bit that comes through, and yeah, adapting to life, I guess, with the family. It's just like making sure everyone's entertained enough that they're away from me for long enough to get what I need done. If you, in the nicest way possible, I just think
Yeah.
I do need to stay focused on the goal, and that's yeah, paying the bills and stuff. So yeah, it's been good. Uh, I know it could be a lot worse, so I'm very grateful.
Mm.
So, man, this is might be. I'm not doing anything that I haven't spoken about, so I'm just trying to at least get a fair chunk of this done.
Nice. What out of all of them, you may have covered this, but I'm not sure if you have. But out of all of the tools that you've shown us, what's your like main go to? Is it the pencil or the brush tool that you would, if we had a little tracker on like all of your tools used, which would have the highest use? Which tool are
I
you wearing out the
reckon
fastest?
I reckon the it would be equally pencil and blob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think they both work the best for how I work, and yeah, ever since I guess I ever found the blob, I've realized that it's almost like having Photoshop in Illustrator. I feel it's got that same feel, and as you know, like a Photoshop brush it's a rastered image, right? Like it's not you
Mm.
can't as far as changing it, you can change the color and you can add a stroke, but it's never the same as the way that it works in Illustrator. When if I want to change these brush strokes that I'm doing, it's as easy as clicking on it and making the change. It's so yeah, I think Blob definitely gets a lot of love.
Nice. Good old Blob.
Yeah, it's such a good name, Blob Tool.
The good the good tool and the worst X-Men ever. I've seen I saw in your portfolio that you had a Marvel project in there, or at least I saw the Marvel logo. Have
Yeah,
you done much kind of comic
I
style drawing?
I haven't. I think a part of most of my art kind of retains that sort of.
Yeah, it's a bit of the
Or,
inking
or,
is quite comic book in terms of the shading and
yeah,
like inking lines and everything. Yeah.
but in terms of comic related, I did some work with Warner Group or Warner Brothers, whatever you want to call them, and I did some Batman stuff, which was kind of cool, and I did that Marvel piece, and they were both cool because they didn't want it to be. It was basically like they wanted it to be an art by Dale original, so it's very like reflective of my style and not how they were originally drawn,
Yeah.
which is cool because I like. Obviously, I have a lot of like love for comics and that style. It's obviously very reflective of how I work anyway. But the Marvel one was really cool. It was, I think, it was 2 years ago, maybe 2 years or a
Mm,
year ago. For for those who want to check it out, it's on my website.
nice. Are you a comic book fan? Did you grow up like reading comic books and stuff? Was that something that kind of encouraged you,
I
or?
definitely, I definitely grew up in a house full of comics.
Mm,
Um, like my dad is heavily into like just that comic book. He was the comic book generation. Like he grew up. That's all
yeah.
he ever did was read them. So he had a massive collection. And I think I can't tell you that I'm a comic book buff. Like I couldn't give you any rundown on like the history of it, but I know that the art has always attracted me a lot. And
Mm,
if I see a comic, I'm not even reading it. I'm just looking at their techniques and the
right.
lighting. It's always really dynamic lighting. It's really bold lines and stuff. So I definitely have read my fair share, but like everything, I just kind of got to a point where I was like, oh, I gotta go to work. I gotta do this.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
everything takes second place, unfortunately.
It's always the way because you have kids as well, which adds an extra dimension.
Oh man, it sure does. I just I can hear him downstairs, and I'm just waiting to see what surprises I have.
What 2 hours of you know
Oh,
child free has cost you for the day? We
they weren't
appreciate it. We
impressed.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, they weren't impressed. Like I told them no internet, nothing. They're down there watching Harry Potter.
They're down there thinking about ways to get back at you for
Yeah, oh
taking
god,
devices.
I'll pay for it. Trust me.
We appreciate
All
it.
right.
That's for sure.
Oh, well, thank you for having me anyway. This might be the last time you see me. All right, so I've got this artwork. I won't go in too much further. As you can see, it's obviously going to look like this. But what I want to do quickly is talk about how I might address the color addition. So I'd go through, I'd do all my line work, all my detail work, get all the blacks in. Like I said, color is always like last priority unless it's been asked to be my priority. If that
Mhm.
makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, and then I'll go in and first things first, I'll just grab my outline. Call this color. 15 minutes. All right, I'll paste that in. That's underneath. And I'll just change it to this. So I'll just drop that in. I'll just put a base color in. So it's I know that that's my tone, sets the tone for the whole piece. Obviously you got like your mid-tones, your highlights and shadows. So I would say that my blacks are definitely the shadow point, but I might go in and add like shadows under the black. So it might go into this fill gap under here,
Mm.
like under here and stuff. So I'll call this base color. I don't like that color. I'm changing it. All right, so if I've got that as my base, and I want to just make a dark shadow. And my light tone, it's not very light. Anyway, so I've got my tones, so that's my base color, my dark and light. That's all I'll need anyway. And then I'll just go in with any of those tools, again, doing the same process. And I'll just go in and start adding in. All right, so I'm going to work on some black. So lock the base color, go above that. Tones. Yep, and then I'll just go in and start like, yeah, there's going to be some shadow here. Really quick. So I might just follow these lines and then just add that color down there. This is pretty low. All right, that's gonna all go. Then I might just add some of that same line work just to carry out the shading.
Yeah, it looks great. It adds a lot to it, like very, very quickly.
Yeah, and usually I would just, if I was doing a black and white piece, it might just only be a grey that I will add, and or some half tones or something. Excuse me. But you can see that how much it adds to the piece instantly. Like it just brings it up a whole lot more. So that's where color wins. But there's definitely ways to do this sort of same feel with the black and white. But I just thought it'd be nice to show that it's the same process. So I just did all that with the Blob Tool, but I can go in with the pencil tool and do the same sort of thing. Whoops. Just adding some highlight color. Oops. And probably choose you can change the colors of the key line. So maybe just change that if you can't see what you're doing with the pencil tool. So you just double click on the layer and you can change the key line. And now I can at least hopefully see.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, I could go through, just start adding all these little highlights and stuff. And I'll just do that for the next, 2 weeks, whatever it takes to finish that job. But you can see already that little component of the artwork already has like a whole new sense of depth. But again, it's only using those couple of like strategies, using the pen, the pencil, the blob tool, and you can achieve all those looks. I'll quickly just jump into Photoshop.
Cool.
Like just real.
And just letting everyone know we've got about 10 minutes left. It's been great hanging out with you all. Hey, while you do that, I can bring up my schedule. Why don't I do that? Because I wanted to share that with everybody anyway. So this is what's up for the rest of this week. Well, this is our whole week. So Tuesday we had Ben Marriott. Right now we're here with Dale Bigeni, which has been super awesome. It's been so much fun hanging out with you. And then on Thursday at 9 o'clock, this is Sydney time, by the way, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Got creative photography editing with Demis Rosley. And then on Friday, Jeremy Lord, regular, is back doing some of the Honor Heroes sort of illustration stuff. So if you caught Ben Marriott earlier on, he had a crack at that, the campaign that's happening at the moment. And then Jeremy Lord is going to have a go as well. So we'll come back to your screen.
All
Big
right.
stretch.
Yeah. I'm on this horrible chair. I'm pretty sure it's used like for a mechanic or something.
All
Oh,
right.
wow. What did I do? All right. So I'm just going to focus on this little part here because I just hadn't drawn anything else at the top. So this little like section that we're working on here, first I'm going to make sure, I'm going to change the image size. And I'm going to convert this to a little bit higher res just because it's going to be easier for what I'm about to show you. Sorry, it's just loading. Oh, God. All right, so in this little part, and this goes for the whole piece, I would just go, so in Photoshop, so this is how your Photoshop probably will load up, pretty basic. Again, this is not my everyday computer. So I've got a heap more, but you don't even need the ones I've got underneath at all. In special effects brushes, there's these Kyle spatter brushes, and they've got this pressure. I can't even read it. It's like just splatter that. Like as you draw, I'll do it in. So if I hold that, so as I hold it, it's further spread the spatter. But if I hold it really light, it's pressure sensitive, so I can go from that to big spreads really easily. Anyway, that is the tool I use, and I'll just go in, and I know that I want these to be in here. Let's just say like that. Keep in mind, it's not going to be exact, and this is not the best way to do it. This is just one way to do it. There's just so many like textures you can buy now. Can't see the bottom of my screen.
I think a lot of the Carl T. Webster brushes are free now or integrated.
Yeah. Oh, and there's so many of them as well.
Funnily enough, actually, Kyle is on Behance Live just before our session tomorrow with Demis. So if you want to catch that, I know Steve in the chat has seen lots of that. But yeah, he's pretty amazing.
All right, I brought this in and it was really small anyway. So that's the splatter, right? So we've brought it in and it's a rastered image. So I would just go in and literally, you can go image trace, and obviously it's lost a lot of those details. But if you click on this little window here, you can bring up some options for your live trace effect, and this goes for anything. I just leave this the black and white. Then you've got all these advanced settings. So if you play with the threshold, you can see it brings more in. You go too far, it just goes black. So let's just leave it there, but you can reduce the paths. You can see the shape changes. You can add paths. You get more of that texture coming through. But down here, you can see any anchor points and paths you got. So remember to be considerate of how much you got going on there. So I'm just going to do this real quick. Let's just play around till you get the effect you want. More noise, less image. Less noise, more image, basically. Ignore white, and you can see how much that changes in paths and anchors. So just get rid of the white and then press expand, and you've got your texture there. So that texture can now be applied. Like you can either do it two ways. You can pick the base color and leave this so that you can edit that via the paint fill. So I can just go like that. Oh, and I would make sure that it's on a separate layer above everything. No, that's basically it. So you can do it that way and have it so that you can change it with that's obviously too much, but you play around with those settings, or you can open that shading layer, select Pathfinder. Oops, wrong way. I've just like got rid of everything.
Mhm.
There you go. And now it's one piece. So if you change that shading, it'll change, but the texture's applied in there now. But yeah, and that's how I would apply some texture, but I would probably never do that much. I like it to be a little bit mild, less than, yeah, mild over wild.
Mild over wild.
Yeah, but yeah, and that's pretty much the roots of, or that's the beginnings of a piece that I might finish, and I'll chuck up on my Behance, or I'll put it on my website, and you guys can see the finished result in a week or so.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
cool.
Man, we've covered a lot. There's like been so many. I think the Blob Tool was the hero of the day. If anyone won the day,
Yeah, he's gonna have a big rest.
it's getting a little bit worn out. Yeah, well, that's been amazing. It's been so good chatting with you, spending some time,
Definitely.
albeit remotely this time. It would be good to catch up in real life sometime on the other
Definitely.
side of this whole thing. Have you back in the studio as well. We'll have you back on Adobe Live, I'm sure, many times before then.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's been great. Thank you, everyone, for spending some time with us. Amanda and Johanna, Festus. It's been great. Thank you for the questions and everything like that. We are back tomorrow. So tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, Sydney time is a 9 o'clock start. So a little bit later, a little bit easier on everyone. I know I had you up pretty early today, Dale.
That's all right. It's fine.
So thank you very much for that. Yeah, let me just do my stuff correctly over here. And yeah, thank you again. Thanks, everyone. Hey, Laurie Goodridge in the chat. Good to see you, mate. That's great. But yeah, we will see you all same bat channel, similar bat time. And thank you again, Dale. We'll be in touch and we'll hang out again soon.
Thanks so much, Flynn. I appreciate it.
Cheers. Bye, everyone.
See you, bud.